While the NFL will always be my first love and the Chicago Bears will always be my team of teams, no matter what that ultimately brings to me, there was a long period of time, most especially all throughout the different phases of my childhood, that when it came to playoff action, nothing to me topped what the NBA playoffs could bring you. Beyond question. I mean, you had great stars, great teams, great games, great matchups, great rivalries. You know, I've seen a lot of great rivalries over the years, whether it's Lakers and Celtics, or it's Celtics and Pistons. It's Bulls and Cavs, Bulls, Pistons, Bulls, Knicks. I could go later on, even Bulls, Heat. Hell, I can even remember after the Bulls of the 90s were done, you still had some really good rivalries like the Lakers and the Kings, and the Heat and the Knicks. You knew when you saw these teams square off in the regular season, but most especially in the playoffs, that you were going to get intense basketball played at a high level by guys that wanted to beat the snot out of each other and beat the pants and the brakes off of each other. You don't really see that anymore. And I don't really think anybody with a straight face can point to any one really great rivalry in today's NBA, especially is evident in this year's playoffs, in my opinion. Now, people may point to the changing landscape of the game due to free agency and what have you, a changing of the times as to why this has occurred. But to me, it's very simple. It comes down to one thing. That's the wussification of our sports in this country and the pussification of the NBA. And the fact of the matter is, as I sit here and watch this year's playoffs, I realize just how much of a pussy game the NBA truly is today. Truly, truly a pussy game, frankly played by a lot of pussy players and coached by a lot of pussy-ass coaches. Run by a pussy-ass league, period. This is some pussy shit on the highest order. You know, as I sit here and watch this year's playoffs so intently, probably more intently than I have for years, I'm reminded more often of why I lost so much interest in the NBA in the early to mid-2000s as opposed to why I loved the NBA in particular as a kid and why I used to love playoff basketball so much. This pussy shit has gone on too far, and this pussy shit has got to stop. Like I'm watching last night, Game 5, the Eastern Conference Semis between the Bulls and the Cavs. Series tied at 2. You've got LeBron James and Kyrie Irving on one side. You've got Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler on the other side. And even in this game, the pussy shit is all abound. Like, for example, you've got LeBron James, to me, unquestionably, the best player in the world. The marquee man in your marquee moment as a sport, which is your playoffs. And here he is in the first quarter of a series that is tied at 2 games apiece in a critical Game 5 at home at the Q. And about 8.5 minutes in, he's begging out of the fucking game. Here is LeBron James, the star of stars, the best player in the National Basketball Association, 8 minutes plus in, and he's begging out of the fucking game. Like he's not even going to try until he gets out of the game so he can get some fucking rest. This is the best player in the league, and he's begging out of shit like it's a preseason game in October. This is the NBA playoffs, you jackass! The hell are you doing asking out of any damn game? In fact, if you had any type of real winning type of personality at all, regardless of any excuse or any injuries or any bullshit anybody's going to try and bring up to defend this horseshit, you should be angry and upset and bitching about being taken out of the game, not sitting there and raising your hand, politicking to get your ass out of the fucking game. And he did it repeatedly at game number 5, and he's done it repeatedly all playoffs long. I don't want to hear the excuses about all the wear and tear on his body. I don't want to hear the excuses about the number of minutes he plays. This is the fucking playoffs. You are supposed to be the man on your team, the man of the entire league, and you're on this punk bitch rec league shit begging out of a game after 8 fucking minutes. This is astounding to me. You got players begging out of fucking playoff games. And then on top of that, let's look at the injury things. Now look, I understand that sometimes guys are really hurt, and sometimes they can be more counterproductive playing hurt than if they just sat out. But I'm looking at Paul Gasol, hamstring injury or not. If you were healthy enough and able to move enough to put on your fucking pant legs for your damn suit, then you were healthy enough to suit up and at least give it a fucking go for game number 5. That's ridiculous. A strained hamstring and the guy's not playing? And you look at another series like John Wall with his freaking non-displaced fractures in his wrist. I don't give a damn if you only got one good hand. You're the point guard. You're supposed to be the star player, the best player on your team. And you've missed now 3 games in a row in the playoffs? What type of horse pussy shit is this? All of these guys that will talk about their tough upbringings, and talk about how hard they used to have to play the game and the physical style that they play. Well, once they get to the NBA and they get a couple of paychecks in their diva bank accounts, they sure fucking forget, don't they? And I don't want to hear this shit about team this or organization or coaching decisions that. At the end of the day, the players run the show in the NBA, and we all fucking good and well know that. And when these players sit there and don't play, it's because they ultimately didn't want to. Even I look at a Chris Paul. Yeah, you could talk about he hurt his hamstring. He courageously played through it in game number 7. But where is he the first 2 games of the freaking next series? He's sitting his ass on the sidelines. Dude, if you can walk, if you can run in any way, shape, or form, you're fucking playing. This pussy shit has got to stop. You've got players playing with injuries, and then they stop playing because they're hurt. I can see if it's a regular season, if it's December or January. I understand that, especially if you're a team that's looking forward to the playoffs. But you're here in the playoffs. There is no guarantee of it tomorrow. Even if you sit there and have a strained hamstring and it ends up becoming a pulled or torn hamstring, you've got the entire offseason to recover and get ready for the next year. The fuck this shit with all this rest crap. This is ridiculous, but the pussy shit goes beyond just that. It comes to the style of play or the lack of style of play in the playoffs. This is pussy shit if I've ever fucking seen it. Like, I'm watching Game 5 last night, and Taj Gibson gets this bullshit flagrant 2, not for, sitting there and throwing a punch at the back of Dellavedova's head, but because he was trying to shake off Dellavedova, who had him in a scissors leg lock. So instead of calling a foul on Taj Gibson or a double foul on both him and Dellavedova, or maybe calling double technicals on both of them, we allow Dellavedova to scoot with no punishment at all. And we eject Taj Gibson with a flagrant 2? What the actual fuck? Part of the whole appeal of playoff basketball used to be that you knew things got tightened up. And what I mean by tightened up is that teams played tougher. They played more physical. And while I'm not necessarily sitting there and fully advocating a return to the bad boys Pistons days, I do miss the days where you actually had playoff-style basketball. Now we've got some European-style regular season pussy bullshit. A guy gets touched and he's screaming like he just got freaking murdered. You got a guy gets a slide elbow, and he's sitting there flopping to Kingdom fucking Come like this is soccer or something. You want to flop like a pussy? Go over to the freaking Champions League and play soccer. This is the NBA, and this is allegedly supposed to be a man's game. The women of the WNBA play more of a man's game than the bitches in the NBA. These fucking pansies are fucking flopping. They're bitching and arguing and moaning and pissing at the refs every time they don't get their fucking way. What happened to a good old-fashioned playoff foul? Can't tell you how many times I've seen something be called a flagrant that 10 or 15 years ago would have just been a hard playoff foul. Now you got somebody driving the lane, the old playoff rule, no layups, no dunks. If you sit there to go wrap up somebody, you have to be worried about whether or not you get called for a fucking flagrant. So you're supposed to sit there and just let the guy shoot layups on you or dunk on you all fucking day. This is ridiculous. I'm all for player safety. I don't want to see unnecessarily, completely ridiculous, violent shit. But at some point in time, it's got to mean something. And at some point in time, you would think it would be okay for guys to be a little physical and act like it actually fucking means something. But instead, we got pussies bitching and moaning to the refs like LeBron, for example. What are you bitching and moaning to the refs for? Nobody in today's NBA gets the benefit of more horseshit calls than LeBron James. All the times he travels that it's never fucking called. All the times he lowers his shoulder and barrels into somebody and it's an offensive foul and instead it gets called a defensive foul or nothing gets called. All the times that he fouls somebody on the defensive end and he doesn't get called for. When's the last time LeBron James was actually ever in any real threat of fouling out of a game or any type of foul trouble whatsoever? But yet every time you turn around, here's LeBron bitching at somebody. And yes, I know guys like Magic and Bird used to do it sometimes too. Jordan was horrible about it. Pippen was pretty bad about it too. But these pansies in today's game take this shit to a whole different fucking level. This is not just me being some old jaded basketball fan. This is the fucking truth. You guys ever heard of an instance of the boy who cried wolf? If you're always sitting there every time and bitching about a foul not being called, then at some point in time, when you do have a legitimate gripe, the ref's not going to take you seriously because you bitch about every fucking thing. How about instead of bitching about a foul that wasn't called, that wasn't even a foul to begin with, how about you get your ass back on the other end and you play some goddamn defense? I sit there and watch my Bulls how many times in Game 5. 2 or 3 of them don't get back because they're bitching about a call that was missed or wasn't even fucking missed. Or a call that happened 3 series ago. What the fuck are you doing? Man up, you bitches! This is horrible. The flopping, the bitching at the refs, the fact that we're calling shit that should be personal fouls or just a technical foul an ejectable offense is absolutely, completely, and totally, astoundingly fucking ridiculous. And then the coaches aren't immune to this shit either. What better way to say I believe in my team than having to employ some Hack-A-Shaq type of fucking strategy? I hate when Popovich does this bitch-ass shit because his team and himself as a coach, they're so much better than that. And then you see the Rockets doing this shit. What a pussy way to play the game of fucking basketball. And I know there's something to be said about these guys are professionals and they should be able to hit their fucking free throws. And I agree with you. And I understand why some of these coaches feel like it's a good strategy. But what a bitch-ass fucking way to play the game. It's a pussy way to play the game, which is so appropriate because when you watch the NBA playoffs this year, all you see is pussy this and pussy that. A bunch of fucking pussies playing a pussy fucking game. And all the while, the playoffs lack the thing that they need the most, intensity. Like, you should feel that the Bulls versus the Cavs, for example, should be a series with so much on the line, so much hatred, so much animosity. And no matter how much they'll try and sit there and pump up Joakim Noah versus LeBron or Joakim Noah versus Cleveland, nobody gives a fucking shit. Who fucking cares? Who the hell is Joakim Noah, for God's sakes? This coming from a Bulls fan. What the fuck does he matter? And even in that case, what the hell does Joakim Noah even do to sit there and get a freaking technical or get that much hatred? Like, I look back at a previous game in the series when LeBron dunked all in Joakim Noah's shit. And he sits there and talks shit to him. And then Joakim Noah fires back. Well, bitch, you're still a pussy. I think that's what he said. It doesn't fucking matter. I think they both got teed up. I remember back 20-plus years ago, Sean kept dunking on fools, pointing at him at the fucking ground, and guys coming up after him after he's dunked all over their shit, saying, you know what, that's pretty nice. Part of the game of basketball is the ability to jibber-jabber. It's the ability to talk. And we've taken that out of the fucking game like Mutombo with the old finger wag. We made that a fucking technical if he does it in anybody's face. How anybody else does that type of shit? What type of pussy shit is this? If a guy makes a great play and he wants to show off about it and he doesn't cross a certain line, then let him do it. If the other team's got such a fucking problem with it, do something to stop it. We don't need the ref sitting there and as soon as a guy flexes or as soon as a guy does anything to celebrate, technical because we're a bunch of pussies. The fuck type of horse shit is that? What the hell is LeBron getting a technical called on him for? What the hell is Joakim Noah getting a technical called on him for? There are so many worse things that could be said, and this is what you're penalizing guys for? Because a guy dunked all over another guy's shit, and he wants to let him know about it, and this guy responds. That's playoff basketball, damn it! But what else would I expect out of today's NBA? You know who you can thank for this shit? David Stern. So concerned about this and so concerned about that. That apparently he wasn't concerned about the integrity of the most important time of the year for his league, which was the playoffs. It frustrates me so bad, too, because I used to love the NBA playoffs, and they used to mean so much to me, and they were so great and so thrilling and so exciting to watch. And now it just feels like an advanced part of the regular season, and it's not something that really sucks you in, and it's sad. But it's the truth. The NBA is now a pussy game, and I guess I just have to accept it.